Welcome to today's session, everyone.
We are Premed CC, a student-led organization established in the fall of 2021.
Our goal as an organization was to create an online program for pre-medical students at community colleges and universities, with the hope of guiding the next generation of diverse and inclusive physicians.
And while we advertise our organization as being for community college students, our events are open to anyone.
We realize that finding guidance and mentorship in a pre-med journey can be especially challenging for first-generation pre-med students,
people that lack the financial resources, or just those who do not know people in the medical field.
One of the best parts about our events is that they are virtual, so you can do it from the comfort of your own home.
We typically have events on Fridays from 5 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and on Saturdays from 11 a.m. to 12:30 Pacific Standard Time.
If you aren't able to attend the event, all of our sessions are uploaded on our YouTube channel.
Many of our sessions will end up with a Q&A with the speakers.
Any questions that you have, you may put it in the Q&A session on Zoom, and our team members will read them and have them answer.
After you have attended our event, you can log into our website and complete the quiz, which will contain questions pertaining to our session today.
If you score 70% or higher on the quiz, you will be awarded a certificate to show that you attended our session today.
If you want to stay connected with the upcoming events or just want to tell your pre-med friends about the Premed CC, you can find us on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok as @PremedCC.
Alrighty, so welcome everyone. We're gonna we'll start with Leslie and then we'll go around introducing themselves and getting to know our panelists.
Sounds good. Hi, everybody. My name is Leslie Nunez. I'm a second-year medical student at UCLA, also part of the Prime program. I was born and raised in Southeast LA, and I attended East Los Angeles College before transferring to UC Berkeley, and I graduated from there in 2020. And then you asked about a fun question, and I'm gonna go with what's my favorite ice cream flavor, and I'll do probably the ooey gooey brownie from Salt and Straw. And I'll pass it on to Alberto.
Hello, everyone. My name is Alberto Juarez. I'm currently MS3 at UCLA, part of the Prime LA program. So I'm from South San Diego, Tijuana area. I went to community college in Chula Vista, part of the Southwestern College, transferred to UCLA, and then also did a post-bac at UC Irvine through the UC Consortium, and now I'm a third year. So fun fact, in a sense, so I have been to 8 countries, mostly in Central and South America. And I'll pass it on to Mario.
Much appreciated, Alberto. Can y'all hear me? Yeah. Okay, cool beans. Hey, everybody. My name is Mario Eusebio. I am currently at MS1 in the Prime LA program. I'm originally from the Philippines, but lived most of my life in the Bay Area. I went to community college at Diablo Valley College, and I transferred over to UC Berkeley. And I did a DIY post-bac through UC Berkeley Extension. Prior to matriculating, I've taken multiple gap or growth years and worked in different aspects of in the intersections of medicine and public health, research, clinical realm. And let's see, a fun fact about me, aside from being a medical student, I also teach Filipino martial arts. I've been doing it for about 4 years and been a practitioner for, I want to say, almost a decade at this point in time. And I'll pass it on to George.
Thanks, Mario. Thanks, everybody, for being here. My name is George, MS1 over at UCLA, also in the Prime program. And so for those of you that aren't aware, Prime stands for Program in Medical Education, Leadership, and Advocacy. I was born in Santa Ana, California, so Southern California, Orange County, which is roughly about 45 to 50 miles south of Los Angeles. Attended community college there at Santa Ana Community College, transferred over to UCI, and it took a couple of years off just to kind of really kind of equilibrate myself, get a sense of what my direction is, and a lot of other fun stuff that we'll talk about, but glad to be here with y'all. I think with regards to a fun fact, I'll mention ice cream just because Leslie went there. And, you know, what immediately comes to mind is taro. I won't pass up on taro ice cream, yeah. And then I'll pass it over to Ezzy.
Hi everyone. I don't know, can you guys hear me? Okay. Yeah, awesome. Hi, well, my name is Ezzy. I was born in Nigeria, and raised there, but I moved to Lancaster, in California, and also raised there as well. I went to community college at College of the Canyons in Santa Clarita, and then I transferred to Concordia University in Portland, Oregon. And I took like 3 years, gap years, and now I'm an MS1 at UCLA. I'm in the Drew UCLA program, and also in Prime as well. Fun fact, okay, so I've lived in like the 3 states across the West Coast. I guess not including like Hawaii and Alaska, but like the Oregon, Washington, California. So yeah, that's my fun fact. And then Lily.
Thanks, Ezzy. Can everybody hear me? Okay, hi everyone. My name is Liliana, or Lily for short. Born and raised in San Pedro, California, and I went to community college in it's called Los Angeles Harbor College. It's in Wilmington, and I also went to Trade Tech in South Central Los Angeles. I ended up transferring to my #1 choice, UCLA, go Bruins. And then after that, I did a post-bac at UC Irvine through the consortium, like Alberto. And after my post-bac, I worked in the biotech industry, took a few gap years, and now I'm a first-year medical student in the Prime LA program at UCLA. Fun fact about me is that I can drive stick shift. I think it's hard to find people who drive stick shift nowadays, but yeah, excited to be here.
So you guys feel free to put your questions in the Q&A and we'll ask you. We'll try to answer as many questions as we can, and this session is for you. And if there's not a lot of questions, then the med students can go and study. But we usually get a lot of good questions. And so I think she's just I'll start with the first question. Did going to community college harm you in any way when you were applying to medical school, or when you were pursuing this path? Did it harm you, or did it stop you from pursuing your dreams, I guess you could say?
I think I can try to answer that. You know, I think being in community college and thinking about being a pre-med was definitely, you know, I've always had that in the back of my mind of like when I'm applying to medical school, just thinking about, will they accept my classes? Will they see me different? Definitely was something that as I was going through community college and undergrad and the post-bac, was something that I was thinking about. But honestly, there are some schools that do look at that positively, saying like, look, this person, you know, as a first generation, they might not have been able to go right out of high school to a university. For myself, like I was working as a construction worker as I was going through community college. And so there's a lot of paths towards, you know, going through and being a pre-med, and community college. Honestly, if I look back, it was a wonderful experience because it was a smaller classes. I was able to be doing one-on-one with the professors, asking questions, specifically like organic chemistry, the higher level sciences, and I thought it was a wonderful experience.
Right. Thank you so much. Does anyone have anything they want to add on to it?
Go for it, Mario.
Sure, I get on to that, most definitely. I would want to say that community college in reality, at least for me, with all honesty, was a blessing in disguise. I had a lot of formative experiences when I was in community college. Ended up becoming a TA for my anatomy professor there, and I was very blessed to actually have cadavers each semester where we would be able to dissect. So I learned I was basically a TA dissecting organs for viewing for lab while I was in community college. I also got the opportunity to be able to work at my county's coroner's office where I would assist forensic pathologists each day doing autopsies. And that was also when I was at community college. So community college actually set my foundation regarding my interest in medicine, because I initially came in thinking I was going to do pre-nursing. And then I met a couple of good friends of mine who convinced me to be pre-med when I was taking anatomy, actually. And so not only was I able to create a sense and a foundation of my interest in medicine, but it helped me set up all those intangibles. So I learned how to develop soft skills like public speaking, being able to get my hands on project management stuff by joining clubs. I think in community college, it was a while back, I was part of a AGS, and I was also part of Toastmasters, which helped with public speaking. And additionally, a lot of my first mentors in the field of medicine I got in community college. And so I wanted to also wrap around and answer a couple of questions that were in the chat. There are a lot more opportunities for internships in community college and transfer students than there were when I was in community college. But I think one of the most formative ones is it's no longer called the Stanford HCOP program, but it's called Stanford SCIP. So if you are currently a community college student in the Bay Area, I believe it stands for the Stanford Summer Community College Pre-Medical Preparatory Program. So it's a very long name, but it's specifically for community college students. And I participated in that in the summer before I transitioned over to UC Berkeley. It was a very formative experience. And yeah, I learned a lot about the medical field, met a couple of medical students that are now my mentors to this day, who are attending physicians. So in regards to your question, Jubin, community college was definitely one of, I would say, the foundational cruxes that allowed me to get into medical school. I did not see it in any way as a hindrance.
And I just want to quickly add to that and really capitalize on what Mario was mentioning. So initially just even attesting to it, but aside from just the academics and the opportunities that kind of like fertile soil landscape provides, it also kind of puts forth this opportunity for self-discovery, right? To kind of really better know yourself, what you're passionate about, and then just even your well-being, right? So this little bit of time allows you to kind of solidify that game plan as far as like, how am I going to take care of myself as a human being? How am I going to grow, and how am I going to mature? And I think that's one of the kind of unsaid things that I think is also a true blessing, is that it allows you to grow, self-develop, and that can also serve as a foundation for you to really just kind of integrate yourself in all the academia and all the professional work that's necessary to kind of evolve and get one step closer to medicine. Yeah. So I'll just throw that out there.
Okay, does anyone have anything else they want to add? No, okay. I'll ask our next question in the chat. So what are some things that you did to help you decide if you want to go the pre-med route?
I can start with that question. So to kind of echo off what Mario was saying, in community college, I worked different jobs, worked as a waitress, caregiver, at the gym as like a front desk receptionist. And it was really, I knew I wanted to be, working in healthcare. I just didn't know what or how or who. And I think with the lack of role models, lack of resources, you can kind of find yourself just confused and not knowing what classes to take and what path is designed for you and that aligns with your passion. So I talked to one of my counselors in community college, and she told me, well, if you want to work in the hospital setting, you need to get clinical experience. You need to expose yourself and see if that's for you. So I decided to do an EMT course in community college, and I actually worked as an EMT for a local ambulance company in Long Beach for about 2 years. And it was through those experiences that really reinforced what I wanted to do, and that was to become a physician. And really just getting that experience working with other allied healthcare professionals and having that one-on-one experience with patients and clinical experiences in the clinical area just really opened my eyes if that was for me or not, because you really need to get your feet wet. You really need to talk to people and get mentors, because you can want a career for yourself, but you really need to connect with people and figure out how you fit in and what kind of skills that you bring to the table and skills that you can build on. And I really think that working as an EMT opened my eyes to healthcare disparities and language barriers in the ER, and just really immersed myself into just the passions that I have now that I still take with me. And I still remember the patients that I served in Long Beach now that I'm a medical student. And it's something I won't ever forget. So I think if I can give advice to students in community college is take advantage of it. There's so many programs you can do that are covered by the BOG waiver, by LECCD. I mean, it really depends what district you're in. You can do CNA, MA, EMT. There's so many ways you can get involved and get your clinical experience and get paid at the same time.
I think to add on to that, to what Liliana was saying, definitely getting involved with different volunteer experiences. And just because you're going in, for example, to get some pre-med experience, remember that if you're at a hospital, there are so many healthcare professionals that are working there, the pharmacist, the nurse, just so many that you can always, ask them, how's your experience been? Or, PAs as well. I think that's a profession that we don't also talk about often. And so I think that when you choose if you're interested in healthcare or the healthcare profession, when choosing what you want to go, there's so many factors that come into play, and it should never be, oh, that's too hard, or I don't think I can. I think it should come from like kind of the lifestyle and the career that you really want to do.
Yeah, hi. If I had some stuff to that, I don't know if anyone that's watching is like gonna be applying as non-traditional or anything, but I was working as a nurse before I applied to medical school, and so I feel like as far as experience or like deciding to go to medical school goes, like my view is like a little different. But I think that one thing that really helped me like fully solidify that is like shadowing. And I don't know if Lily said that, but just like shadowing and like shadowing like an MP, for instance, and then shadowing a doctor and seeing how different their roles were, and like deciding which one would work best for me, or like how I wanted to impact patient care. I think that was really important. So shadowing is pretty good as well.
All right, does anyone have anything else they want to add to this question?
Just I'll add something else, and I'm not sure if it's with regards to this particular question, but it was another question that caught my eye in the actual Q&A with regards to, like, was there a specific instance, I believe, that kind of solidified your direction in saying like, hey, I'm going to commit to medicine versus something else? And so for me, I've always been into medicine since I was in high school, and my dad always had a positive influence on that. So for the longest time, I was like, I want to get into medicine. And then there came a point in my life where I got super interested in the PhD route, and mainly because there was like this intersection between, as far as my interest goes, between medicine and then kind of like integrative care, things like meditation and some neuroscience related stuff. So I'm like, well, maybe I can still, see patients somehow, but I was just so fascinated with the research behind it. And so I think that the very straight answer to that is like expose yourself. And I think folks mentioned this to some extent, is expose yourself. So I exposed myself to that research setting, and that kind of immediately gave me that feedback. Like, yeah, I like this, but it doesn't compare to my experience that I was having as a volunteer, as a pre-med volunteer in a clinical setting where I was sitting with the patient, connecting them to social resources, like having patients cry there because I'm helping them. So that was like a game changer for me. I'm like, I'm so glad that I let myself get exposed to this other kind of interest that I had, because it reified to me like, no, that's not the path that I want to go. I really want to commit to medicine.
All right, thank you. And our next question we have in the chat is, what type of internship or volunteer program did you complete or would you recommend for undergrads?
I can start. So if you go on the AAMC website, there's a few programs that are sponsored and they actually give you a stipend. One of them that comes to mind is SHPEP. It was formerly named SMDEP, but now it's SHPEP. And it's actually a nationwide program and it's held at different universities. And it's over the summer. You stay in a dorm and they expose you to problem-based learning, clinical experiences, and a lot of mentorship and resources. And it's actually endorsed by the AAMC. So when you apply to medical school, specifically, there's like a drop-down menu that says, did you participate in any of these programs? One of them is SHPEP.
I just put the link there, and I just put the link in the chat, and UCLA is one of the sites as well for one of the SHP sites. Sorry, Mario.
Oh, no worries, dude. I could speak for a lot. So I'm from Northern California. I speak a lot to the programs that are over there. So I think Jubin posted the Stanford Community College program. They also have a research program that's also for community college students, for those interested in pursuing MD PhDs or the research route. There is the UCSF Undergraduate Research Internship Program, or URI, which is run out of UCSF. There's the UCSF PUP program, which I forgot what it was, but I'm pretty sure it's like bioinformatics. If you're interested in the public health field, there is, and integrating that with your interest in medicine as well, there's Health Career Connections. I know that another resource that I used to work at UC Berkeley as a program advisor for the Biology Scholars Program. So if you're ever at Berkeley, you should definitely apply to a BSP. I know another resource that a lot of individuals use as well is Mi Mentor. They have a lot of internships that they post out over there as well. And let's see, those are the ones that I know off the top that I've worked with the most, but they're mostly in Northern California, except HCC, which is national.
Just to make a little plug for that HCC, their CEO and founder is actually going to come and speak in November, and he could tell you all about the programs and how to apply. He did it also last year as well, so I think it's posted on our website. I don't know the exact date. I have to look, but it's in November.
Well, I wanted to add that, a lot of the programs we're talking about are health and like pre-med, pre-health related, but also if you're already involved in volunteering or in programs that are about something else, for example, if you're interested in art and you teach art, I think that medical schools are also looking for people that are bringing different things. And so if that's something you're passionate about, continue that. And there's so much that you're learning, that you're gaining from all those opportunities. So don't feel like you have to kind of redirect your entire attention to everything pre-med, everything pre-health. Continue the things that you're passionate about, because that will come out in your application.
And I'll just throw out one thing that, was such like a big deal for me in my life and really committing me to medicine was, conducting and engaging, kind of participating in a medical mission. And at the time, so this was a medical mission that was taking place in Peru, just helping the neediest populations out in Peru. But at the time, I'm like, I don't have the money, I don't have the funds to support myself. So I actually started like a GoFundMe. I started a GoFundMe, and then I just kind of, started fundraising money. And I was able to go there. And I think that's a very unique experience that tells the medical school, like, hey, this individual is not only necessarily interested in just local medicine, but like on a global stage and on a humanitarian kind of perspective. Because at the end of the day, medicine is that human interaction. And so it shows, that, especially if you can do it as a community college student, that you are taking that initiative to kind of get out there and learn. And if you guys are interested, you can let me know. I can connect you to that actual organization, and I can try to facilitate some connections.
I think to add what Leslie was saying, I think one of the things that I would add is, you also have to think about like your whole application is a story, and so not everything has to be pre-med. So if you feel like you're interested in, something and it fits your story, then do it. And to add to something, another thing that you can do is also scribe. A scribe is also a big thing in the sense where you're literally seeing the patient and the doctor interaction, and you're learning as well as you're writing all these new names of diseases, medications, and things like that. So you're literally absorbing all that information. And some of the hospitals have it, as well as community clinics that you can apply to.
Thank you so much, everyone. Anyone else have anything else they want to add? All right, moving on to the next one. This attendee says that they know many people continue their education for their families and they want to make their parents proud. They want to know, how do you separate that with truly doing this for yourself first?
I can start answering that question. So a little background about myself is that I am the oldest daughter. I have 3 younger brothers. Both my parents were born in Mexico. And I think, having immigrant parents, they always influenced me to pursue higher education, go beyond graduating high school, go beyond the expectations I have in myself and what my environment had of me and what the stats say about me, people who come from my area code and the kind of work they go into. And, you really have to come to realization that life is really short and you can't please everybody and you can't make your parents happy all the time. And you really have to choose a career that every day you can wake up and be happy you're going to work. That doesn't feel like work. It feels more like a dream, like a calling, like something that you can work 2 to 3 shifts back to back and you're just still happy and fulfilled. So if you don't see yourself doing that in medicine specifically or in other careers, then you should really reevaluate who you're doing this for, because burnout is real. And if you're doing it for validation from other people, it can be family, it could be friends, it could be a partner, you will burn out. And you really have to have that passion that keeps you going, a specific experience you had. And it's okay to be inspired by your family, your experiences, your grandmother, your cousin. But at the end of the day, you're going to be the one studying. You're going to be the one financing, hopefully you get scholarships, and you're going to be the one going through these trials and tribulations to get your degree. So you really have to do it for yourself and do it for your community and find your passions outside of, making your parents proud, which is really important. And they'll be proud of you no matter what, as long as you're happy and you pursue a profession that you're content with. So that's my little 2 cents.
Anyone else have anything they want to add? All right, moving on. So we have an attendee who says they've had a few C's in their community college transcript. They want to know, does it represent how I struggle in lower division and affect my application like science GPA, or should I continue to strive for higher grades as I transfer to a university for fall 2024 and hope that it can show that I have an upward trend of learning?
I can speak to that as someone who has multiple C's on their transcript. First of all, right, I would like to say in regards to your, in community college, let's rewind. The main thing that you want to do in community college is get rid of all of your pre-medical prerequisites. Like, do not go and try to basically transfer and then finish up the rest of your prereqs at whatever institution that you're in. You want to make sure that you're doing well in community college. And that's what happened to me. So when I went to UC Berkeley, I made the mistake of not finishing up my physics requirement, and I took physics at Cal. And I was also taking upper division science courses at Cal. And so there was a lot of, I would say, culture shock, but the realization that I needed this information prior to taking those upper division courses. And unfortunately, I was put on academic probation my first semester when I transferred over to UC Berkeley. And so, you know, your grades are important, but they're indicative of, you know, your level of knowledge at that point in time. It does not mean that you can't improve and show that you are academically ready, right, to be able to achieve in medical school. So yeah, you have a couple of C's on your transcript. That's cool, right? But the main idea is, don't let that idea like engulf you and make you believe that you're not, you know, you can't be in medicine, right? It's all about being able to recognize, refocus, and persist. And so if you are able, so that's one of the reasons why I had to do post-bac classes after graduating from Cal as well, is because my GPA was low. And that's okay. You just got to keep on persisting and continuing to learn, and one day you'll get to where we are today. So don't think that just because you have a couple of C's that it's the end of the road, even when you transfer, right? A C is not that bad, but it hurts at the moment, but you can recover from it. I can pass
Anyone
it on
else?
to Alberto, because I know that.
Oh.
Yeah,
I'll
just mention that. Yeah, that's absolutely true. You should not by any means let a C deter you in any way, shape, or form from continuing your path. There's so many more opportunities, just countless opportunities to make up for that C or even those couple of C's, right? If down the road you still are kind of struggling with your grades, I mean, you can do a post-bac program, right? Or if maybe your GPA is not the most kind of highlighted thing on your resume or on your application, you can kind of beef it up with these non-GPA associated extracurricular activities or research or volunteerism. There's so much you can do aside from your GPA that can really make you a prime candidate. No pun intended, but for UCLA in the prime program specifically. But like Mario, like, you know, just to Mario's point, you have to show what did you get out of this, right? Because I think there's even some questions on secondaries or at some point that ask, like, you know, why did you get this bad grade, or you know, what helped you build resiliency or grit, right? It's important for you to be able to explain what you did from there on. What did you learn, and how did you capitalize about that? You know, so there's a lot of growth to come from that, and it shouldn't deter you in any way.
All right.
Alberto, did you want to add, or?
Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to say the same thing as Mario and George. Like, I had multiple C's. And yeah, at that time it really hurt. And it made me think about, like, is this the correct path? But honestly, it was like, I continued on. I, you know, worked harder, learned from my mistakes, learned how to study. You know, if things didn't go my way, then I had to figure out, okay, what do I need to do in order to improve? Both at community college as well as when I transferred to UCLA, like, I learned from my mistakes and I figured out, okay, what's the next step that I can do in order to succeed or to become a better applicant? And, you know, there are some things that you'll learn from yourself. One of the things that I learned after, you know, going into the post-bac was the fact that, you know, I had some learning disabilities, and it made me see that affected a lot. And it made me see, you know, I need accommodations. I need these things in order to make me be able to take a certain test. And so, you know, these grades aren't everything, like George was saying. Like, there are other things that will make you a better applicant. But unfortunately, again, you know, schools do look at, you know, GPA. They will see, like, they'll have cutoffs, but certain programs might not. So just continue going towards that road of, you know, doing better for yourself the following exam or the following class.
Yeah, I think the key part of it is, like diagnosing why you're getting a C. If you're getting a C because you're taking 30 units and working 4 jobs, then a club president for 7 clubs, and you do all the social events, then probably should cut back on them. But there's great resources at community colleges. I learned my first semester that, gosh, I'm putting in a lot of time to study, and I just asked my professor. Then I went to a learning center. I found out, hey, I do have a learning disability, and I just need a little bit more extra time to read. And also, I have they put it that I've got this little software. It's a reader, and I get to record my classes, and so it miraculously helped me. And I think the first part of it is diagnose what the problem is and find resources that are available to you. A C is not indicative. I mean, some classes are really hard, and a C, you throw up in your hand and you say, you know what, I'm never gonna have to take this class again. But find out what the issue is and the challenge is, and move forward. I mean, but I think that the key part of it is, why did you get a C, and find your resources that are available to you, because there's a lot of resources and there's a lot of support. You just have to ask for it. Nobody's going to come and like hand it, give it to you. So ask and be resilient.
All right. Our next question we have in the chat is, what is something that you did in community college that helped you stand out in your application?
I can say a little bit about that. To be honest, I didn't do anything special in community college. I was just trying to figure out my life, but I think someone mentioned earlier that, it's a growth process. Like that's where you really just get to figure everything out. So like I think I spoke a lot about that in my application, about how I just moved maybe a year or so before I started community college to America. So that was also hard. And I just really talked more about how like community college has helped me just kind of not assimilate, but find my way into like the American educational system. And like I talked more about those experiences, and also talking more about how I kind of figured my way out into like some leadership positions, because there was a lot of with a lot of culture shock, there's a lot of challenges with like, speaking to other people or feeling like you can be part of a community. So to be honest, in general, I feel like the whole medical school application is less about the big things that you did, and more about like how it's impacted you. So I would focus on those.
So in community college, I think I mentioned this previously, on the medical end, was the first time I actually got experience in the medical field, working for the Contra Costa County Sheriff's Department in the Coroner's Division. And then also becoming a TA for my anatomy professor. So those were 2 really big things that were formative in forming my interest in the medical field, because when I was at the coroner's office, there was really no discretion in the cases that I saw, and it was very much hands-on. And I could 100% say that was sort of a foundational step for me, and really guided all my other interests in the medical field, my interest in teaching, because I had to teach some of the deputies about what was going on in these particular cases. It gave me, my interest in public health, because a lot of the individuals that I was seeing in the coroner's office were unfortunately a lot of folks of color who were dying from what I believe are very much preventable causes. I learned that I was interested in public health because I didn't have the vocabulary to be able to discuss what I was seeing. Later on, I learned it was, social determinants of health, and I chose my activities to learn more about these particular interests of mine. And on the more non-medical field, I took a lot of leadership positions. So I mentioned, I have to reflect back because community college feels like so long ago, but Toastmasters and AGS, I was not very good at public speaking. And so I had to put myself in situations where I had to develop these types of skills. And so I joined clubs and try to get leadership roles where I could develop those skills. But then one of the main things that I learned in community college is how to establish a network. So a lot of the professors I met in community college helped me, what I would say, progress in finding experiences that were to my benefit. And so in community college, I would highly suggest that you try to establish relationships with your professors, because you'll never know what somebody's story is unless you ask them. And I feel that in community college, it's a lot easier to have those types of discussions with your professors as opposed to after you transfer. So that's something that I established off the bat in community college, which, helped me get to where I am today.
I'll add that, like Alberto mentioned, every application always tells a story. And so for me, my story was that I struggled academically when I first started community college, but I did emphasize being resourceful, looking out for resources, reaching out to people, asking for help. I feel like that's something big that a lot of people have a hard time doing. But I think it was mentioned that if you don't ask, you won't get it. And so I talked about that, about having to reflect and adjust my studying habits, and how after I got comfortable with navigating community college, then I became a tutor and tried to do the same and support others. Also, many of you may also have to work to put yourself through school. So I'd have to get out of school, and then I worked at Ross, and then I worked at Menchie's, which is a frozen yogurt spot. And so I talked about a lot of that too in my application, what I learned from working with people, from customer service. So even the experiences that you think may not add to your application actually do. And so reflect about the things that you've learned in these experiences, like jobs. That's my piece.
Just to add to what Leslie was saying, I would highly suggest that you really think of like, what is the connecting point in all of the activities that you decide to do from community college to where you were at? Because like Leslie, I also had to work multiple jobs while taking a full course load in community college as well. So it's about assessing and deliberately choosing, how you want to spend your time. And, that's our most valuable resources that we have. And so just really think about that when you decide to, if you have to work, you have to work, but try to see what you could learn from that particular position that you're in.
Yeah, and if I could just quickly add, threw up some thoughts in my mind here. So for me, just thinking back, I didn't really kind of dive deep into a lot of the extracurriculars and other stuff until I got to UC level. But the one thing that was very important for me, like the other folks mentioned, was working, being that financial support for my family. And so something that I would suggest is a way to, if you need to financially kind of engage yourself, to also do it in a strategic way. So for example, if you're pre-med, maybe seeking out a community health center or a federally qualified health center, so you can, one, still financially support yourself, and two, just, dive deep into a clinical setting. And you can really kind of surround yourself strategically with other things that kind of tell that story and that allow for that story to be committed to a common cause, right? Sometimes it might just be the case that, hey, there's just no jobs available at a community health center and so you have to work somewhere else. But at least you have that kind of idea in your mind that you could potentially seek something out where you can kind of kill, a couple of birds with one stone.
All right, moving on to our next question. What are some classes that you see have been the most relevant at making med school easier?
I don't know. Is med school easy? I don't know. I don't think anything. I'm not in med school, so I can't really say. But
I think maybe Leslie and Alberto can answer, since they finished their preclinical work at UCLA, so maybe they can talk more about the sciences.
yeah, they survived.
Yeah, they survived. So
You're just trying to thrive.
We're not a true reflection at the point. Yeah.
I think Leslie could talk because she just finished. No, I'm just kidding. So I think, to be honest, there isn't any, to my experience, there isn't anything that will prepare you. I think most of the pre-med classes are preparing you to take a test, and this test is the MCAT. There are some classes that might help, there might not be, in regards to just medical school. Maybe like Mario was had, you know, anatomy, but the anatomy is very different to what, you know, you see at school, at medical school. So I honestly think that my opinion is, I don't think there is. Yeah, that's my opinion. I don't know, maybe Leslie might have another opinion.
No, I agree completely with Alberto. I don't think there is a class. I think that, like, if you are able to kind of solidify your study strategies, perhaps that can help, but also that changes. That may change with medical school too as you go along. I will say that community college and undergrad, a lot of the, like biochem, for example, it's all like the nitty gritty, like molecules, all that stuff. And it's very different in medical school because all the information you're learning is more applicable to health and or to like a patient's like diagnosis or condition. So it's a little bit different. But I will say, like, again, the study strategies or kind of the, yeah, I don't know. I do not think there's a class that helps, but I do feel like, again, yeah, the strategies for studying and also kind of like being resourceful as well. If you practice resourcefulness in community college or in undergrad, then that's something you can bring along with you as well to seek out like the tutoring opportunities or meeting with the academic advisors. But yeah, I agree with Alberto.
Also, to add to this, so DGSOM is on their third year of this new curriculum, which called HEALS curriculum. And so usually I believe the first 3 months of the 2-year preclinicals is usually like a lot of biochemistry, immunology, and things like that. And for DGSOM, they basically condense that into self-studying. So to be honest, maybe biochemistry, maybe immunology classes might have helped us, but because of this new curriculum, I don't know. It might help during STEP, but that's not going to even, everything's going to be erased by that time. Like, you're going to forget everything. So yeah.
I'll put my 2 cents in. There was no class that I ever took in undergrad or post-bac that ever, like, I don't think helped me. All of the knowledge and experience that I got outside of the classroom, that's what helped me, because I was actually able to apply that knowledge as opposed to learning from a textbook. I was seeing all these things firsthand, and I use my classes more like a textbook, like use as needed type of situation. Because when I was working, I would see like these cases, or I would work with physicians who would discuss this. Then I would go back to the classroom and be like, okay, this is what they talked about. This is kind of like what we're learning. But my whole spiel is get out there and apply the knowledge, as opposed to just, getting stuck in this knowledge acquisition phase. Because you could have all this knowledge in the world, but if you don't know how to utilize it, then it's just, it's just fun facts at that point. So go out there and apply what you know, and find experiences that allow you to apply what you know.
And I'll just quickly throw out that there are different aspects to medicine, and specifically with curriculum. You're not just going to get tested on book information. A huge key aspect of medicine and health and well-being is interpersonal connection. And so, to Mario's point, it's not only you just soaking up information, but it's how are you going to interact with your peers. You have case-based learning where you're interacting with your peers, kind of going through a physical exam. So you have to be communicable. You have to be able to be effective with communication and your interpersonal skills. So these are things to also consider. And I think highly effective ways to kind of develop them is to kind of get out there in clinical settings and in social settings that are relevant to medicine as well.
All right, our next question we have is any tips you might give to applicants particularly interested in the UCLA Prime program?
I guess I can mention something initially just to get the ball rolling. So one thing that comes to mind to me, so of course, right? So with Prime, you're really focusing on the underserved population, right? So first and foremost, you have to show a commitment to the underserved population, right? And you know, I alluded to this earlier, but working at a federally qualified health center is, I think, a huge advantage to not only kind of stand out, but to really kind of tell the Prime program, hey, I really care about the underserved community. And the reason I say that is because FQHCs, federally qualified health centers, and other community health centers alike that are also kind of situated in underserved populations, these are the safety nets, the clinics that serve the neediest population, right? And so if you go on Google and if you type in FQHCs in my area, you can seek those out. You can ask to volunteer there. You can ask to work there. You can apply there. You can do so many different things. And the really neat thing about these FQHCs is that most of them are one-stop shops. So they don't only have medical services there. Some of them have behavioral health. Some of them have dental. Some of them. So you're working in this like dynamic, interdisciplinary kind of environment, and you're doing it in service of the underserved population. And within those health centers, there's a lot of opportunity to grow academically, to grow professionally, to kind of advance your role in leadership, and to also be there as a source of learning medicine as it pertains to the underserved community. And so that's something that I would suggest you doing. If you feel like you're a little overwhelmed or don't know where to start as far as how getting involved, see if there's any local community health centers or FQHCs in your area.
Yeah, I can kind of echo what George was saying. So Prime LA doesn't sound for Prime Los Angeles, even though we kind of assume that for starting. It stands for Leadership and Advocacy. So in Prime LA, you actually are required to do an additional graduate degree and master's degree. And they really want to train physicians that are going to go out in their community and change policies, change the rules, change the way that we look at marginalized communities, change the way that we provide care to patients who have been, neglected because of our democracy and discrimination and language barriers. There's just so many things that go beyond giving someone a diagnosis and medication. There's other disparities that you learn about in Prime LA. So specifically Prime programs in the UC system, I think they all have their individual missions. So you should go on each website and see. But specifically for UCLA, they really want to train doctors who are going to lead and advocate change, specifically for underserved communities. So if you're a pre-med and you're interested in Prime LA, you should really look for things that you connect with personally, that align with your life goals, that align with your passions, but also demonstrate your commitment to underserved communities.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I'll just emphasize that about demonstrating an awareness and also a commitment to changing some of those structural determinants of health that have already been mentioned, like a language barrier, like legal status, like being unhoused, like substance use, like being aware of those factors that do impact health, because health is so much more than just the diagnosis. It's all the factors that affect you, where you live, your support system, the trauma you've experienced. So I think demonstrating awareness and again, the commitment to either in the work that you've already done or the work that you hope to do is important. I think is a good fit for the Prime LA program.
Alberto, Mario, do you guys want to add anything to that? What you think made you interested in?
Yeah, I think, everyone kind of had basically why we ended up going into Prime LA. Everyone has their own stories. And for me, my story really was for the underserved. Like we saw each other's communities and we wanted to make a difference, and we want to make a difference. And so for me, like living in San Diego and Tijuana, being in a border town, it made me realize like there was a lot of health disparities within this border town, and seeing the struggles of my community and my family, and made me see that I needed to make a change. And so that's the thing for me. But it might be something different for other people. But it's, again, going back to the leadership and advocacy, changing the structure that the healthcare is now to make our underserved communities healthier.
Yeah, and the only thing that I would add is, I'm sorry, Mario, did you have something? Did I cut you off?
No, it's okay. There's nothing that everyone has already said that I could potentially add to. Just echo everybody's sentiments.
I think, yeah, and then we'll have Dr. Moreno, who's the director, and all the other Prime programs come sometime, I think in March, and we're doing a whole session with all the Prime directors, and so you come and find out more about that. But I would just say that just look at their website, because they're very unique. Like the UCI Prime one, where we had the director recently, like you have to speak Spanish, so can't do the Prime LC without speaking Spanish. So, but I think all of them are very unique and very special in their own way. And I would just say that all the panelists are very special in their own way, and they found reasons and their passions to do what they're doing. And so that's why they chose that. So.
All right. Just moving right ahead. Why did you choose becoming a physician over becoming a PA, nurse, or any other healthcare profession?
So I can kind of start it off, and mine's a very specific situation. So take it with a grain of salt, of course, as there are just a multitude array of scenarios. But so I worked at a community health center, an FQHC, for a couple of years. And as part of the reason why they get funding from the government is that, they have to kind of meet certain requirements. And one of them is that they have to have a medical director. So they have to have a doctor that's leading the community health center. And so being there and seeing the level of ability that this physician had in managing an entire health center, to me, was extremely inspiring. And to see the level of commitment they had to the underserved community was even that much more inspiring. And there were, so she was actually the only physician or the only doctor there, and the rest were physician assistants. And I think there was a nurse practitioner. But the fact that she was the doctor and she had the ability to coordinate the care team, for me, that kind of, told me, okay, that's what I want to be. That's the kind of position, the leadership position that I want to kind of sustain and hold, to be able to kind of, make for this type of environment. And so knowing that these FQHCs, you need those kind of positions, was like a telltale sign to me, like, hey, okay, this is the direction that I want to take.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna echo what Jed said. For me, like I mentioned earlier, I was already working as a nurse. And for me, I wanted to be in a more of a leadership role outside of the hospital, like in the community. Being able to like influence things like policy. And I didn't see a lot of nurses in that role. And not that there isn't one, but I think that, what Judge just said kind of puts that into perspective for me as to why I didn't see that as an example for me. And what I saw more of was like as physicians being in these roles. And so, and I mentioned earlier, like taking that extra step to go see what the difference in like responsibilities and the difference in the jobs that either of these professions do by shadowing them was like super important to me, and was like, I think like also a very defining moment, because I was, I mean, everyone's practice is different, but I was shadowing a nurse practitioner, and even though they're able to practice alone in California, in that instance, like the nurse practitioner was still like, had to like either get reference or like guidance from the physician as well. And I know that this is not the case for every single situation, but to me, that kind of showed where I wanted to be, like as far as like how I wanted to impact patients. So I think that I would say shadowing for sure, shadowing and like also seeing what you want out of this experience and how you want to impact the people that you want to impact will kind of be the telltale of like which part of health you want to like fall into, because the job that I did as a nurse was also very important and I love the job, but moving forward and moving past, like thinking 10 years in advance, that was not the job that I wanted to continue to do. So that could be the job that you want to do. Like you might like that better than becoming a physician. So you got to explore and you got to see what each and every one of these roles entails. So that's what I'll say.
All right. Anyone want to add anything? All right. So our next question is, will you be able to apply for these internships as a dreamer?
I can look into SHPEP. I'm confident they do accept DACA students, but I can definitely look into that and also create a list that is
There's a
open to DACA
list.
students.
There's a list. RU Finders that has a whole section for dreamers, and then pre-health dreamers has that as well. The RU Finder, she's actually spoken here before, and she's coming back again in December, which is a website, basically rufinders.com. And she has basically a whole section for dreamers and non-dreamers, and she'll come and talk, and she's very generous with her time, and so she's doing an application support for summer programs, because you do apply for summer programs during Christmas break, during the holiday break, and so come to that. I think she's speaking on December 2nd, but just check the website. And then Pre-Health Dreamers has a lot of resources for pre-med students, and they're really good about responding to emails and people. And so, but anybody's a dreamer on the panel? Okay, yeah. We've had dreamers before, but these are the two resources for internships and stuff. Just in general, just kind of to look at that is if it's a program that's federally funded, it's not open to dreamers. But if it's a California program, within California and funded through state funds, then it's open to dreamers. So just kind of. And then the last thing that I would just say too is apply to the program, get in, and then they will find a way to get you in if they really want to. But I think that's a huge risk and that's a lot of time commitment. But I know a friend of mine who really wanted to do this program and applied, and they really liked her, and they actually found a way for her to be part of the program and get her paid through other things. So you have to take a leap of faith and be resilient and do it. So, and I would and then I just always say is that let them reject you, don't reject yourself. So yeah, so just go for it. Unless unless they specifically say on their website, like do not apply if you're a dreamer, then or undocumented, then yeah. So
our next question we have is for the UC Berkeley graduates. Do you have any advice specifically for students at Berkeley?
I'm guessing that's towards me. It depends on where you're currently at, right? If you have already, they asked specifically for graduates, correct?
But they asked for students at Berkeley. So like,
do you have it? Oh, they're currently at Berkeley. Okay.
Yeah, they're currently at Berkeley. Yeah.
Do what you can to survive Berkeley. It's a rough place, but I would highly suggest that you find a community out there that can help you out, whether that's through the EOP STEM, Biology Scholars Program, there's a lot of resources at Cal. I would definitely, if you're a pre-med, speak to the pre-health advisors at the Career Center, Hugo Mora Torres and Inma Moreno. Like they are really good. And I think that's probably like the first time that I've seen like two first-gen Latinos is the basically assistant directors of the pre-health services at Cal, because that was not the case when I was there. But definitely try to find a community out there, right? And really assess where you're currently at. So if you're on the struggle bus with classes, like it's okay, right? Just graduate and get through, and then you could reassess when you're there. But if you're currently taking your pre-med prerequisites and trying to decide on your major, understand that you do not have to major in MCB or molecular cell biology or integrated biology. You don't have to major in the sciences to get into medical school. So don't feel like you're going to get pigeonholed into those particular majors. Pick a major that you're interested in and just do well on your pre-med prereqs, especially if you're a community college student, right? Don't try to go in to take like anywhere above 13 units your first semester, and then think that you're able to still work and do extracurriculars. Really take a step back. So I'm going to need a little bit more context from this person but those are from the top, try to be as general as possible. Advice that I would give to that individual.
I second that about finding a strong community at Berkeley. For me, the Transfer Student Center was a super huge support system for me. Also, more so on like the people advice, I always heard like, oh, well, you had it easier. You did all your prereqs at community college. So I would totally like zone people out when they would kind of discredit the work that I put in, and like I grind, like I work hard too. And so I feel like I would hear that a lot from people, and I don't think they know that they're being mean, or maybe they do know, but I would just, tune them out. You stick to you and what works for you. And I think that the pre-med culture is pretty like, strong out there in Berkeley. And so actually, personally, I didn't have many pre-med friends. I found a support system outside of that because that's just what worked for me and what was best for me. So if that's you, then, by all means, do you.
Yeah, and I would just say Hugo Morales, he's helped thousands of people getting into medical school. Dr. Quinones, who's he's like Dr. Q, basically, he actually got into medical school because of Hugo and dedicated like a whole chapter to him. And so I would say anywhere, this is not just Berkeley, this is any school from Harvard all the way down to down the street, community college. The worst people that you could listen to advice is other pre-meds. And so, it's Torres. I'm sorry. It's Hugo Torres. Okay. I'll find his thing and I'll post it on the thing. Don't ask for your pre-med friends for advice. Ask, advisors, and you're going to get bad advisors too, but at least they could direct you the correct way. And then also finding mentors is really important. And just don't listen to people that are trying to psych you out, because there's a lot of people that are there to, try to psych you out. So don't do it. Find a community, find people that are supportive. We have this platform, it could come and ask the deans of admission all the questions you want. So don't ask your pre-med students. Don't ask your pre-med friends. Yeah, and then I don't know specifically about UC Berkeley, but I've heard, and I wanted to ask Mario to talk about the Biology Scholars Program, because I've heard a lot of people that have been successful at it, and so he's also an alumni of it. So can you just talk a little bit about it?
Sure. Definitely can. So BSP, or the Biology Scholars Program, is probably one of the most, especially if you're at Cal, one of the most, I would say, like formative experiences that I had at Cal was definitely my community. A lot of the alumni that came out of BSP helped me out through every single portion of my career. But essentially what it is, it's a program that was established in like 1992. And it was meant to help students who are first generation, coming from under-resourced communities who were at Cal, regardless of whether or not they were a transfer student or, whatever their immigration status was. As long as you were at Cal, you were able to apply to that program. They didn't look at your GPA, your SATs. They really wanted to see, if you were finding a way to combine, your interest in the sciences, whatever that may be, because you didn't have to major in any of the sciences to be part of BSP, but mesh that with your interest in community advocacy and interest in doing social justice and community work. And so I found BSP to be very helpful. It provided me a platform to be able to establish a network of my peers and professional mentors that really helped me through every single, like I said, I can't speak more than enough about BSP and how much it has helped me. I even came back and became a program advisor for BSP after I graduated from Cal, a couple of years later down the line. They provide internships to help students out. One of the internships I actually started when I was an undergrad there, called the Biology Scholars Clinical Exposure Program, which is a shadowing program and a partnership with Zuckerberg San Francisco General Hospital's Pulmonary Critical Care Department and BSP that allows students in BSP to shadow in the Pulmonary Critical Care Department. They have phenomenal advisors. One of my colleagues is one of the advisors there, Mary Torres, still there. Dr. John Matsui is the program director. I've never met a program director, at least at that point in time, who would just chat it up with me on just knock on his office and just chat about my day and how things are going. Very accessible, very good mentor of mine as well. They have tutoring services for any of the pre-medical or biology prerequisites from chemistry all the way up to biochemistry. And then there's also the BSP room, which is located in the Valley Life Sciences building, which is a student space just for BSP students. So all in all, a very great program. If you're at Cal, definitely apply to it, regardless of what year you're in. And yeah, unless there's anything else, anyone has questions on it, I could definitely answer, but that's my spiel on BSP.
We will just move on ahead. Okay. If you did a post-bac, how did you know that the program was best fit for you versus perhaps completing a master's or even an SMP? I would love to know because I didn't do well in my science classes at UCLA. There is more background. If you guys want to open the Q&A section, you can see there's a whole background, but I don't want to read the whole thing because it's quite long. But they want to know, basically they want to know, how do you know that that program was best fit for you?
So I can go ahead and start answering that. So it was actually recommended to me from a mentor to apply to a postbac through the UC Consortium. And so there's different types of postbacs, right? There's like a career changer, meaning you're graduating college and you don't have any pre-med courses and you want to change your career and go to medical school. So you want to redo you want to do the classes that you didn't do that are required for medical school. Then there's a pre-medical enhancer programs like the UC Consortium. Those are for students who did the pre-med prereqs. They just need to do different upper division science courses to enhance their application, enhance their GPA, because they had issues, personal issues in terms of like their GPA in undergrad. Then there's the SMP, the Special Master's Program. So those are also different and they have different goals. So in terms of what kind of postbac you want to do, it's also informal postbac. So you can do like classes at Extension, at a different institution. So me personally, I chose the postbac at the UC Irvine School of Medicine because embedded in the program, they have MCAT prep, they have mentorship, they have AMCAS application help. And there's just a plethora of resources that I felt like I didn't have access to and that I really needed in terms of, study skills and tutoring. And UC Irvine really did a good job in terms of preparing me for medical school, having that one-on-one mentorship with my advisor and going through my essays. And it was more of a personal touch that I think I needed. So I was I was kind of deciding, should I do an informal postbac to kind of do my own thing or do like a formal program through the consortium? And that's why I chose UC Irvine, because of that one-on-one guidance that I think I really needed.
Does anyone want to add anything that was before?
I could add in regards to a postbac, whether or not you want to do a structured postbac versus an informal postbac. Mine was specifically based on finances and proximity. So I was working full time because I had to pay off my student loans, and that was one of the biggest goals for me before I applied to medical school. And academic remediation is expensive, so whatever you can do to do what you can when you're an undergrad, because once you graduate, it's that financial burden is mostly on you or on loans. But for me, it was predominantly financial, and I got really lucky because I was a full-time employee at Berkeley, and at the time that I was there, they had a sponsored tuition program which basically paid for all my UC Berkeley extension classes. And so that was the reason why I took as many as I potentially could at UC Berkeley Extension. But it just really depends on where you're currently at in your life, and you really have to reassess what your priorities are and regarding how much you want to invest time into that particular endeavor.
All right. If no one has anything else to add, I'll just move on. So this attendee is a first-year community college student, and they've been looking into what kind of extracurriculars they should start doing, and they feel like they've already fallen behind in volunteering and clinical experience. They want to know, how do you recommend researching volunteer and clinical opportunities when feeling so overwhelmed?
I can start answering that. So to start off, you're not falling behind. You're right where you're supposed to be. Being a pre-med is your journey. You don't need to do all these things and check all these boxes and cure cancer and get straight A's to get into medical school. I was in community college for 4 years before transferring to UCLA. And during those four years, I was figuring out who I was. I was working different jobs, taking different courses. I didn't do research or cure cancer my first semester in community college. So don't feel like you need to do all these things before you transfer, because honestly, once you do transfer, it's going to open different doors in terms of research opportunities, clinical exposure. Do your due diligence and look for, programs that you can do now, but really focus on just being a student and looking for those genuine experiences, and don't feel like you need to do every single thing every semester. If you just want to be a student 1 semester, 2 semesters, and work your job or don't work, it's really up to you. You can transfer and do research then. That's something I did, right? So towards the end of my a few months before I transferred, I knew I was going to go to UCLA, and I already knew that UCLA is a major research institution, and I knew that I wanted to do research. I just didn't know how to get involved. So I connected with a few folks at Charles Drew University, which is a local private school near where I lived. And it was actually through a postdoc that I got connected through another postdoc at UCLA, so that I was able to do research as a transfer student at UCLA. So you're not falling behind. You're right where you're supposed to be. There's so much time for you to do research and do clinical work. Focus really on your study habits, your mental health, and little by little, you can add in an activity that you're passionate about. There's so many resources. I think just you being here in the Zoom meeting and talking to medical students and seeing our perspective, and you're already doing the right thing. You're looking for resources. You're advocating for yourself. And so, yeah, I'm getting off my soapbox, but yeah, you don't need to do everything. Just be a student and choose 1 or 2 things that makes you happy.
Yeah, and I'll just mention, absolutely, I wouldn't agree more with Lily. I think that if it's still itching at you, right, if it's still bugging you that you're not focusing on volunteerism or getting involved, you can try to start out small, right? You can maybe try to seek out a potential pre-medical club on campus. That's because that was my situation when I was in community college too. I was really kind of 10 feet deep into just making sure that I was getting the grades that I needed, that I was really what I felt before, right? Like neglecting this other aspect of what it takes to be a competitive applicant. And so what I did was I just kind of sought out the pre-medical club on campus, and I joined it. That didn't necessarily mean that I, was the president from the bat, right? I was just kind of there soaking it up. And that eased, my concerns as far as like not being involved. So it allowed me to kind of be in the general vicinity of what was taking place on campus as far as pre-med went. But at the same time, I still really committed myself to my academia. So, you can initially take a step towards that direction, but you don't necessarily have to, because once you get to once you transfer out, the research opportunities are going to be there, and there's going to be so many of them, and everything else is just going to open up as well. So don't feel like you're rushed. I feel like if you feel rushed, I think you're doing it right, because pre-med is always going to make you feel like this, regardless. It's going to make you feel like this.
I mean, I'm echoing what George and Lily said. But one other thing that I did, and it might not work for everybody, but just like telling people about what you need and what you'd like to do. So like for me, I'd like just talk to my microbiology professor about wanting to do research and the kind of research that I thought I wanted to do, and he like reached out to other like professors around the school and like was able to connect me to somebody. So I didn't like talk to the exact person that I ended up working for, but just like telling like someone that I knew was an ally for me, or like someone that was like um a, almost a mentor, or someone that I knew was just interested, or a teacher that was like super interested in like my progress, and just saying, what this is what I think that I need at this time. So I wouldn't like stress too much about it and kind of like knock on everybody's door necessarily, but like just also let people know sometimes what you're trying to find, or what you're trying to.
I'll also emphasize that if you are, also working and you're going to school and your schedule is packed, you don't necessarily have to find a medical volunteer thing that fits, the regular hours. I know for me during community college, I worked 2 jobs, I went to school. And so the opportunity that I found was to volunteer as a crisis line responder for folks calling in for, sexual assault, domestic violence. And that was really instrumental for me. Part of why, that's something that I still continue to volunteer in, that I'm still passionate about. So it doesn't have to be your traditional, like, I'm going to go to a clinic and volunteer, and it can be later, but if that's something you just can't fit in your schedule right now, find other things that you're passionate about and that you're able to do and commit to.
Yeah, the only thing that I would add is we did a whole talk with PowerPoint and slides on how to do shadowing and clinical experience. And there are simple courses that you could do that could get you into the hospital. And I think going back to deciding between being a PA, a doctor, nurse, whatever, is you can't be something you don't see. And so if, I'm sorry to say this, but going to organic chemistry class doesn't inspire me to pursue being I don't think anybody went to organic chemistry class and got inspired to be a doctor. I don't know, maybe somebody has, but I've not talked to too many people, or physics class. But I think the bottom line is that there's things that you could do simply, that you could get these short certifications, um, and do them, like doulas, or there's all these things that but whatever you're interested in, like Mario was a coroner's assistant, and that's a great job, but that may not be right for you. You may not like the idea, dead bodies do smell, and so you may not want to do that, or doing crisis, you know, text lining, or being an EMT. Like, you may not like to be in stressful situations, and you like to sit down and, you don't want to wrestle in the back of an ambulance with a patient or whatever. You may just want to sit and be somebody who does helps autistic children's, or so there's all these like different things that what you enjoy doing and what you're curious about. I think that's the key of it. And then there's also another question, like, you're not like in timeline, like your timeline is your timeline. And the last one is, I think Liliana answered it. Social media is not real life, you guys. Like, people, like, I don't know, like, we get this question almost every time. Like, I don't know, and I think medical students could talk about this. Um, I don't know. You guys on social media? I don't know. So that's just, that's just me, but I don't like social media is not real life. But can you guys talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I can start. When I was applying to medical school, I remember getting pigeonholed into learning about what Reddit was, and I regret learning what Reddit was, and SDN, and just really getting caught up in that toxic online culture where people think that they know the perfect stats, the perfect story, the perfect numbers that will get you into whatever XYZ school. I think protecting your mental health is important, and social media is something that's not good for mental health, and it's been proven. So social media doesn't really paint a perfect picture of what it means to be a medical student, what it means to be a physician. There are like pages that are like very inspirational. Like one I can think of is like Foods and Medicine. Their page is solely to inspire people to go into medicine who are underrepresented, like Latinos, African Americans, people who have been disproportionately not representing the patients they serve in terms of being admitted to medical school. So social media has its positives and its negatives, but really try to stray away from people and places that put you in boxes or tell you things that really can get you depressed or demotivated in life. So talk to real people who have been there and done that.
And actually, they'll be here in 2 weeks.
Yeah, to add that, I feel like social media doesn't really represent the whole story. You might see only a certain aspect of what that person wants you to see. Just like, for example, finishing up with rotations. Rotations are a really big thing during medical school, and you will have ups and downs. And, I remember sometimes that I would be crying after, rotation or like a certain day because it was exhausting and I still have to go home and study for my shelves. And I might not be posting and crying just because I'm not, maybe I don't want that to be seen. But at the same time, I think it, for me, it's just a little picture of the whole story that you're seeing. And it's just very dependent on that person who wants to share that. So, yeah.
Yeah, something I was gonna add to all of that was that, like, even just being in med school for like the last 2 months, maybe, like, I already see how different everybody is. So even if that's somebody's life on social media, like, you're gonna be the kind of student that you need to be for yourself. And some people are waking up at 5, some people are, waking up at 10, some people are staying late. Like, it just depends on who you are. So somebody's story is not gonna be like, oh, somebody's journey or how somebody's day in the life is not always going to be like your own day in the life. So definitely just finding your own way and finding what works for you and believing in your own way. I think that that's most important.
Anybody else wants to add to that?
I think a quote that comes to mind that I always think of is comparison is the thief of joy. And I feel like social media does present an opportunity for you to compare yourself to what other folks are doing. And what everybody has already said, it's important to do what's best for you and what works for you. You're your own special person. It's just, you're unique. So whatever someone else is doing might not work for you, or you just may be taking a different journey, or you also have a different journey that got you here that influences what you're doing now. So I think personally, if you are on social media, take everything you see with a grain of salt and see, is it affecting you negatively? If it is, then hey, maybe it's a moment to take a break, or to be off of it for a little bit and come back later. But really, reflect on how social media does affect you.
And the only thing that I would add is I call these people keyboard warriors, is that people could sit on a keyboard and you don't know who they are, but they have these very definitive statements on things that they have absolutely no I was going to say effing idea, but I'm not going to say it, but they don't have any idea. And then some people take it like for truth. It's like, and don't do that. That like first, like that damages to your mental health. But the other part of it is like the only one that could really decide what you want to do in life or what you're going to be, it's you. And so don't, sit there and listen to naysayers. Like, they're not doing it, and to me, it's just, I've done like a little bit of research for like people that post stuff on there, and to me, it's just like, wow, this is just crazy. But yeah, so don't do it. Like, I mean, I think social media is great, but yes, you see what other people are doing, finding out other opportunities, a lot of things. Like we post a lot of stuff on social media. Like we just can't send people hundreds of emails a week. So we post a lot of opportunities and research and summer programs. We're getting a lot of stuff from community college people as well, like programs that are open to them. So we repost them for people to see. But yeah, but don't sit there and listen to people making these absolute statements. I'm always shocked about, yeah, that's.
All right. Our next question in the chat is they're letting us know, this attendee is letting us know that they're in their third gap year and they're restudying to retake the MCAT. They've been a scribe at a federally qualified clinic, worked as a PCT, worked as a nanny during that time, and they're currently getting ready to volunteer as a scribe for a free clinic. Besides everything that they mentioned, what else can they do that'll help them stand out? They'd also like to mention that they're a DACA student and finding connections and opportunities has been a little bit challenging.
I can start. I think you're already doing a lot, and it sounds like there's so much that you're passionate about. And I think speaking about that is what is going to make you stand out in your application. I'll also add, and I think this is something people don't often talk about, but I took the MCAT twice and I scored lower my second time. So I think something that people always said to me was like, oh, there's no way you're going to score lower the second time. Like you're going to be more experienced and you're not as nervous. But that happened to me. So I just want to put that out there, that if you feel like your story is strong and there's a lot of other aspects of your application that stand out, you may or may not have to take the MCAT again. But again, that's a decision that you have to make. I will say that if it happens for anybody, that like it happened to me, that you score a lower score on the MCAT the second time, I just talked about it honestly, like what I learned from it, how even though I changed my study habits, it didn't work out. And that's life. Sometimes life just doesn't work out and you grow from it and you move forward. And so I was emphasize that, the growth aspect of scoring lower. But I will say that I can see if you can share your information. I have a couple of DACA students or student friends who I might be able to connect you with. So if you want to share that on a private message, that'd be great. But I think you're already doing a lot, and yeah, just.
Yeah, that's more than average people. That's more than most people do. I would just say focus on the MCAT. Like just, you know, focus on that. I think that's like the most important thing. And we have a lot of resources. We've had a lot of people that have studied for the MCAT on their own and have scored in the 97 percentile. So look at some of our previous events as well. We've had a lot of MCAT resources that are there. But yeah, and I think, like I said, and as a DACA student, like Pre-Health Dreamers are an excellent organization. Is actually started by a UC Berkeley alum who was undocumented himself at that point, and they have a lot of resources. They're like the experts. There's a question As a first gen, you all had to turn to others to help you with your application. Who and what were the most helpful people that helped you out with the application, internship, and med school resources?
I think I can.
Oh,
Sorry,
ahead.
go.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, definitely, you know, even during my at UCLA, I did not know what, the application was for medical school. One of the eye openings was, that was a post, throughout the fall quarter. They basically go over the application process, and they help you figure out, okay, which activities you need to do, which one you should put, how you should write the essay. They give you command. As a first gen, the postback really provided that mentorship of how to apply to medical school. And then the other thing that I also would want to plan is MSR, which is medical school readiness. Each year that accepts students who are trying to apply to medical school. They go over the application, and they also have mentors or either medical school, who are in medical school, or are 15 activities, your essays. Those were the biggest, parts, or that helped me as a first gen apply to medical school.
Awesome. And then the last question I have, and I want everybody to say before we go off, is what is one advice that you would give yourself when you were pre-med? If you could go back in time today, what would that be?
I think for me, it's prioritize your just general well-being, your mental health. I think if you don't have that, and I didn't find this out till too late, but if you don't have that, you don't have that foundation to kind of remain confident with yourself, true to yourself, and to be able to kind of spread yourself out thin in the proper way, because ultimately you're going to spread yourself out thin a little bit. But if you don't have that kind of that fulcrum, that proper foundation of just general well-being, things just get exponentially harder.
I'll say for me, like, be proud of all of your accomplishments. I think we often personally was like, I won't be happy until I transfer. I won't be like, content, proud until I'm here. And there's always like this new goal or new challenge to be happy. And so I think, be proud of all the work you've put in, everything that you've done to get to where you are so far. Like, yes, there may be setbacks, but you're doing it, you're working towards your goal. And so for me, that would be it, being proud and happy with what you're doing.
I could go next. I think that a piece of advice I'd probably give to myself is probably one of my favorite quotes. I think it's Mike Tyson. Everybody got a plan until they get punched in the face. And so understanding that, sometimes you will face these obstacles and these barriers that are in your way, regardless of how meticulously that you plan your future out. And the idea is to just recognize, refocus where you stand, and be able to adapt to the situation at hand, as opposed to, the opposite of that. So, be adaptable and be flexible, and understand that, through grit, resilience, perseverance, whatever you want to call it, right? Your conviction of where you want to be will lead you to where you want to be. So just keep pushing forward and keep moving.
I would say Sorry, Lily. Honestly, for me, I would say to trust the process. I think it pretty relates to what Mario just said, but uh, taking as much time as you need to get to where you need to be, it's not the worst thing to do that. So like just take it as slow as you need to go, and regardless of what happens, if this is really what you want to do, to just keep pushing and keep trying to do it.
Yeah, if I can go back and tell my younger pre-med self something, I would say that medical school will always be there. It's not going anywhere. It's okay to take a year or two off. It's okay to work that job. It's okay to take that class. It's okay to travel. It's going to be there. And at the end of the day, you will achieve your goals as long as you don't give up and you just keep persevering and you have that grit. The doors will open up for you. So yeah.
Yeah, if I can go back, tell myself is, if there's no path, then create one, because as first gens, we honestly don't have that path and we have to create our own. But you also have to remember that, you also have to stretch that hand behind you and help those who are coming your way, because there needs to be more of us.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for coming. I'm sure we could all stay here till 10 o'clock at night. But I actually have to be on shift in 15 minutes, and y'all have to go study and enjoy your set or Friday night. So thank you, everyone, for coming, and we'll have more events. I think we have another Met student panel next week. And yeah, and thank you everyone for coming.